Let's test your magic system. I've built a 12-point diagnostic to see if your magic actually works. Grab a pen, grab a pencil, go down to the comments and keep track down there. Whatever works. Just know we're about to get started, and I'll explain why each question matters as we go. The only thing you need to know before we get started is this. This is based on my 4 axes of magical design, a framework I built to help writers build magic that supports the story. These 12 questions will test your system across function, access, technique, and exchange. Or, to help you memorize it, F.A.T.E. I base this off thinking about the non-negotiables of a story-driven magic system. My goal is to ensure your magic system is cohesive, narratively valuable, integrated into the world, and generates tension. I created this using game design theory, story architecture, world-building logic. Look, all you need to do is answer yes or no to each question. If you wish to elaborate and share, that's what the comments are for. Now, let's get started. Question 1. Can you clearly define what magic allows users to do? This question checks for the functional clarity of your magic system. It's the foundation. If you can't clearly define what magic does, then you can't create consistent rules. You can't design meaningful limitations. You can't tie magic into plot, stakes, or strategy. You're left with vibes and hand-waving, which might look cool, but it'll collapse under narrative pressure. So, pin down the actual effects of your magic. It's all about making things clear, concrete, and action-oriented. The common failures this catches is magic systems that are all aesthetic, no function, or describe only in terms of sources instead of outcome. Question 2. Does the magic system enhance or enable the story's central conflict? This question digs into narrative integration. It asks, is your magic system there to serve the story, or is it just floating in the background? If your answer is no, you may have built an elaborate mechanic that doesn't actually matter. A story-driven magic system should do at least one of the following: create conflict, escalate conflict, symbolize the conflict, or enable the protagonist to engage with the conflict differently than others can. If it doesn't, it's just decorative. It's background lore. It might still be cool, but it's not essential. As for what pitfall this question explores, it's these 4. As for what pitfall this question exposes, it's these 4. Magic exists, but the plot could happen exactly the same without it. The magic system is used for world-building flair, but never creates tension or solves problems. The story's core drama is emotional or political, but the magic isn't entangled with it in any meaningful way. The protagonist has magic, but the conflict is unrelated to their use of it. If your magic system doesn't enhance or enable the story's core conflict, then it's not a system. It's a side feature. Question 3. Does magic have unique applications or limitations that shape how it is used? This question checks for depth and distinction. It asks, is your magic system more than just can do thing or not do thing? Does it have internal mechanics or quirks that change how it's applied depending on context? Put simply, does it force the user to think? This matters because every spell or magical effect is just press button, get result done. You lose strategic tension. You weaken user identity. Everyone uses it the same way. You make your world feel flat and gamey. This question ensures your system has interesting limits: time, condition, physical touch, weather, creative applications, like using shadow magic for stealth and memory erasure or something like that, and edge cases or trade-offs that reward clever use. Great magic systems reward creativity. Bad ones are just slot machines with special effects. Question 4. Is it clear who has access to magic and who doesn't? This checks for clarity and structure in magical access, arguably the first lever of power dynamics in any world with magic. It's asking, do you know, and does your audience know, who gets to use magic and why? In any system of power, magic or not, access defines status, agency, and threat. If access isn't clearly established, then you don't know who the underdog is, you don't know what makes your protagonist special, you don't know what's at stake when someone does use magic. Without clear access, magic becomes either background noise, everyone has it, or a cheat code. The author decides who gets powers on the fly. This question forces you to define boundaries, who's in, who's out, and what that says about your world. Question 5. Are there rules or systems for how magic is learned, inherited, or unlocked? This one digs deeper into the internal logic and progression system of your world. It's asking, once we know who has access, how does that access actually work? Is it random, earned, bought, bred, discovered? This question moves from access to acquisition, and whether the acquisition has structure. This matters because of what rules for learning and unlocking magic does to a narrative. It creates progression paths, training arcs, coming of age, mastery versus burnout, reinforces world cohesion, religious rites, political gatekeeping, bloodline control, shapes character arcs, earning power versus being born with it, and builds stakes around forbidden knowledge, corrupt paths, or lost techniques. Without this, magic feels like a narrative switch the author flips at convenience. You want magic to feel like a system people live in, not a shortcut people receive because the plot needs them to. This question will catch systems where characters suddenly have magic with no explanation. It'll expose inconsistent learning, like one character training for years and another just awakening randomly. It'll make clear the difference between a novice and a master, and it ensures that magic doesn't appear in a story without structure or precedent. Question 8. Does access to magic affect class, politics, religion, or power dynamics? This is the world ripple question. It's asking, if magic exists, does the world reflect that fact? Does it shift who has power? Who's in charge? What's sacred? Who's oppressed? Because it should. Magic is a power system, and power always creates hierarchies, conflict, and infrastructure. If you have magic and it doesn't alter social class, government, religion, economic systems, and warfare, then your world isn't reacting to its own rules. This question tests whether magic actually lives in the world, or is it just pasted on top? It's one of the strongest indicators of deep world building and high stakes integration. Want to know what problem shows up if you don't take this into account? Everyone has magic, but society still acts like ours. Magic is rare, but the ruling class doesn't care about it. Magic exists, but it hasn't influenced military, law, education, or culture. Or there's no mention of what having, or not having, magic means for identity or belonging. This question exposes shallow systems, ones that don't reshape the world around them. If magic exists in your world, it must affect the balance of power. Question 7. Is there a clear interface or ritual for using magic? Gestures, words, tools, thoughts, etc. This is about user experience design, the interface between the character and the system. If I strip magic systems down, here is what they are: input, transformation, output. This is all about the input part of the equation. So, basically, what I'm asking is, how does someone actually use magic And what does it look like? Is it a word, a movement, a sacrifice, a glyph, a breath? And more importantly, is that consistent and understandable to the reader? Magic that just happens on command with no interface, feels weightless, has no learning curve, is impossible to visualize, and offers no room for skill expression. A good interface, meanwhile, gives your magic flavor, makes it tactile and grounded, and creates room for style, mastery, or error. This is what makes your magic system feel like a real discipline, not a plot button. Question 8. Have you pressed the like button yet? If you've gotten this far into the video, I'm going to assume you like what I'm doing here. So, why not show your appreciation by just pressing that button? Alright, time for the real question 8. Question 8. Is the method of use meaningfully connected to the magic's origin or logic? Does the way characters use magic actually make sense given where the magic comes from and how it works? Is there an internal logic between the source of magic and the style of how it's used? Plenty of systems have cool powers and visual flair, but they fall apart when you ask, wait, why does it work like that? This question forces alignment between the origin of magic, where it comes from, the interface/technique, how it's used, and the logic of the system, why that makes sense. When those align, the system feels inevitable, like it could exist. When they don't, it feels like a static noise. The style of your magic should feel like a natural expression of its rules, not just a cosmetic decision. So, for a good example of the type of stuff this catches, magic from a divine source being used like tech with no spiritual aspects. Elemental magic that doesn't behave like the real element at all. Systems that say magic is scientific, but use emotion and instinct to control it. Magic tied to memory that has no cognitive consequences. In other words, this filters out bullcrap style over substance systems. Question 9. Does the technique allow for variation or mastery, i.e., room for user skill, creativity, or innovation? This question checks whether your magic system has depth over time. It asks, can users improve at magic? Can they personalize it? Can they outthink others with the same powers? Because if everyone uses magic the same way, at the same level, with no room to grow or innovate, then your system is flat. A strong magic system needs room to evolve, both narratively and strategically. Narratively, this lets characters grow, train, unlock new levels, or develop a unique style. Strategically, it creates room for clever application, unexpected combos, and asymmetrical battle. It also increases replay value. Readers, players, or GMs start asking, what else could someone do with this? Question 10. Is there a clear cost, consequence, or limitation to using magic? This is the core tension question. It checks whether your magic system avoids the biggest pitfall of all, unlimited power with no downside. It's asking, what stops your characters from using magic all the time? What makes it risky, draining, dangerous, or strategic? Because without a cost, magic becomes a get-out-of-conflict-free card, and that kills drama. As Brando Sando likes to bring up, the cost is what gives magic its weight. It balances the system. It creates stakes. It introduces hard choices. It helps magic reflect theme and character struggle. If magic is always the solution and never the problem, you remove tension from your story. The question is the difference between power and narrative pressure. Question 11. Is the cost narratively relevant or emotionally resonant, not just HP/mana? This is the meaningful consequence test, not just does it cost something, but does that cost actually matter to the story? or the person paying it. It's asking, is the cost just numbers on a stats sheet? Or is the cost something that changes the character, the stakes, or the emotional arc? A cost that's just mechanical, lose 20 mono points, keeps the story at surface level. But a cost that's painful, shameful, transformational, unavoidable, becomes a story device, not just a system rule. Great magic systems use cost to pressure the characters, not just limit the mechanics. This question is about whether the costs show up in the narrative, not just in the lore. So, if your magic technically has a cost, but it never impacts the story, it doesn't count. Another mistake. Characters who use massive powers with no physical or emotional consequence. And then there is a cost, but the story doesn't feel it. Nobody fears the cost, dreads it, avoids it, or pays for it later. Addressing this is the difference between using this spell takes stamina and using the spell makes you forget your happiest memory, and she's about to cast it again. A real cost doesn't just limit power, it changes the character. Question 12. Does the cost scale with the magic's power or complexity? This is the scaling check. It asks, as magic becomes more powerful or complex, does the cost go up? In other words, are low-level spells safer and easier than high-level ones? Does trying something harder, riskier, or more game-breaking actually have a bigger price tag? Because if not, your system isn't balanced. If a tiny spell and a world-shattering spell cost the same, there's no reason not to go nuclear every time. A good scaling model ensures risk matches reward, power has weight, players/readers feel tension when someone reaches for the big guns. Power that's cheap is cheap power. Power that's expensive forces choices. And that's where good storytelling lives. Just so you know, I designed this question to catch problems like all spells feeling the same regardless of scope, powerful magic that's used casually with no ramp up, nothing preventing users from skipping straight to top tier effects, and limitations existing but not scaling, so power becomes routine. If a character can destroy a building as easily as lighting a candle, then nothing is ever impressive again. If the cost doesn't scale with power, then power is meaningless. This question asks, do your characters hesitate before unleashing their strongest abilities? And if not, why the hell wouldn't they? Now, for all the people who have ever wondered if their magic system is great or not, here is how you answer it. Add up everything and compare it against this scorecard. 0 to 3. This is not a system. It's just magic stuff. Needs full rework. 4 to 6. Underdeveloped. Add structure, stakes, or narrative tie-ins. 7 to 9. Solid baseline. Can support a story, but might need refinement. 10 to 12. Fully integrated, high potential system. Strong storytelling tool. If you wish to tell me how it went in the comments or share more, I'll comment there. If you want to see what happens when I'm active in my own work, how I translate this level of detailed thinking to my actual art, check out my other channel, Marc Studios, where I'll be uploading my own work. And if you wish to support the continued creation of thinking and tools like this, support the channel however you can. Beyond that, I'll see you in the next video.